You know, when a mechanical clock stops ticking, you can usually just pry off the back panel.
Right, you just open it right up.
Yeah, you look inside, you see the brass gears, you see the coiled springs, those little tension screws.
You can literally trace the physical failure with your own two eyes.
Exactly. You see that like a tooth broke off the third cog, which stopped the pendulum. It's just cause and effect.
Yeah.
You know, laid entirely bare right there in the open.
Well, physical systems afford us that luxury, right? The luxury of visibility. We're tactile creatures, so if the system is broken or even if it's functioning flawlessly, we crave the ability to trace the mechanism.
Totally.
It's just profoundly comforting to the human brain to categorize and observe a linear sequence of events. Like, first this happens, which triggers this, which results in that.
But then you pivot to the modern world of artificial intelligence, and suddenly the back panel just vanishes.
Oof.
Gone.
Right. There are no gears to trace anymore. We're staring at a technological landscape that is, well, completely opaque.
We feed a prompt into a computer, we wait, 3 seconds? And then a beautifully articulated, highly complex answer just pops out.
The cause and the effect are clear, but that middle part is just a total void.
It really is. And I mean, it's the absolute definition of a diagnostic black box.
It is. For the entire history of modern machine learning, we've essentially been standing outside a factory. We watch the raw materials go in one door and the finished product comes out the other.
Without any conceivable way to look at the assembly line inside.
Right.
And honestly, that opacity is precisely why today's stack of sources is just so compelling. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we're pulling from an AI News Daily Digest dated July 10th, 2026.
Which is a fascinating issue, really.
Oh, it's huge. It's heavily focused on this major breakthrough from the AI research company Anthropic. And the digest also highlights a corresponding piece from MIT Technology Review regarding Anthropic's AI model, you know, the one known as Claude.
Yes, Claude.
The through line in all these texts is that scientists are finally figuring out not just what artificial intelligence does, but like why it does it. They are finding a way to map the internal logic of the machine.
Which is a massive leap forward.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to see inside a digital mind, you obviously need a highly specialized instrument. You can't just shine a flashlight into a server rack.
No, unfortunately not.
Right. And according to our source digest, Anthropic has developed a novel technique to do exactly this. They are calling it the Jacobian lens.
The Jacobian lens. I mean, it's a striking name for a tool that really represents a fundamental shift in computer science.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're moving from simply interacting with these large language models to actively observing their internal cognitive architecture.
Well, the digest relies on a very specific analogy here. It asks us to picture the Jacobian lens as a magnifying glass that peers into the mind of an AI.
A magnifying glass, right?
Yeah. It states that this magnifying glass reveals both the ordinary and the extraordinary processes that happen when these models tackle complex tasks. But I got to be honest here.
Go for it.
As much as I appreciate a good metaphor, I am really struggling with the fundamental premise.
Okay, let's pull on that thread. What is the sticking point for you exactly?
My sticking point is the idea that we need a magnifying glass at all. I mean, humans built these models.
Right.
We wrote the foundational code. We architected the server farms. We designed the silicon chips, and we fed them all the specific data sets. If we are the architects who built the house, how can we possibly need a magnifying glass to figure out where the rooms are?
That's a fair question.
Right. Shouldn't the creators implicitly understand their own creation?
I mean, that assumption makes total sense for traditional software, but it fundamentally misunderstands how modern artificial intelligence actually functions.
Okay, how so?
Well, what's fascinating here is the distinction between building the initial architecture and understanding the resulting emergent behavior.
Emergent behavior.
Exactly. When engineers construct a large language model, they aren't hard-coding a massive encyclopedia of answers. They aren't writing a script that says, when a user asks about the French Revolution, output this exact paragraph.
They are just setting up the basic mathematical rules, right?
Yeah.
Like how the system processes information.
Yes, but take that a step further. They set up the parameters, they unleash it on mountains of data, and then the model basically trains itself.
By forming connections.
Billions of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes trillions of numerical connections. It's adjusting weights and biases across vast neural networks all on its own.
Wow.
The complication is that once those billions of connections are formed, the exact pathway the AI takes to arrive at any specific answer becomes incomprehensible to the human eye.
Ah, I see.
The source text explicitly describes this internal journey as being cloaked in mystery. The model operates in a high-dimensional mathematical space that we simply cannot visualize.
Right, because there's just too much going on.
Exactly. We see the prompt, we see the output, but the computational journey in between is entirely obscured by the sheer scale of the math.
Okay, I think I get it. So it is less like building a house where you know all the blueprints and more like planting a seed.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, you planted an oak tree, you watered it, you gave it sunlight. But you cannot possibly predict the exact direction and twist of every single microscopic root that grows underground.
That is a much more accurate framework. And for a long time, the AI community just kind of accepted that subterranean mystery as the cost of doing business.
As long as the tree grew tall and strong, nobody worried about mapping the roots.
Precisely. But the Jacobian lens changes that dynamic entirely.
So how does this lens actually work conceptually? Because it's obviously not a physical piece of glass you hold up to a monitor.
No, it is a mathematical tool. And without getting bogged down in the deep calculus of it, a Jacobian matrix in mathematics essentially measures sensitivity.
Sensitivity. Like how?
It looks at how a tiny change in one variable ripples through a complex system. In the context of this Anthropic breakthrough, the researchers are using this concept to track how specific concepts light up and cascade through the neural network.
Oh, wow. So they can literally see the thoughts forming.
Essentially, yeah. They are tracking the digital electrical impulses, so to speak, observing the shifting weights in real time as the model processes a prompt.
That is wild.
It illuminates the ordinary things, like how the AI predicts the next word in a basic sentence, and the extraordinary things, like how it synthesizes a complex response to a highly nuanced question.
Which means we are finally seeing what happens underground with those roots.
Exactly.
And this is where the MIT Technology Review headline mentioned in our digest becomes so crucial. Because possessing the magnifying glass is only half the story, right?
Right.
What you discover when you actually look through it is the real narrative here. The MIT headline reads, and I quote, Anthropic found a hidden space where Claude puzzles over concepts.
It is an incredibly evocative piece of phrasing, especially for an academic breakthrough.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I am having a very hard time accepting that phrasing at face value.
Really?
Yeah, puzzles over concepts. The digest reinforces it, too, talking about a hidden space where conceptual puzzles are unraveled. I mean, listen to how profoundly human that language is.
It is very human.
Puzzling implies hesitation. It implies wrestling with an idea, weighing options, feeling confusion before finding clarity. Are we not just wildly romanticizing a giant math equation here? Machines don't wrestle, they calculate.
Your skepticism is entirely warranted. The tech industry has a really bad habit of overly anthropomorphizing algorithms.
They really do.
But the researchers at Anthropic and the writers at MIT aren't using this language to imply the machine has a soul.
Okay.
They are using puzzling to highlight a functional reality that is absolutely critical to the evolution of AI. They are drawing a hard line between what actions the AI takes and why it takes them.
Explain that functional reality to me, then. What does puzzling actually look like in a digital space?
Prior to the Jacobian lens, if you ask Claude a difficult question, say, asking it to analyze the economic fallout of a hypothetical trade war, it would instantly generate a highly articulate essay.
Right.
But researchers couldn't tell if the model was just blindly predicting the most statistically likely sequence of words based on its training data, like, an ultra-sophisticated autocomplete.
Yeah, just guessing the next word.
Exactly. Was it just regurgitating text it had memorized, or was it actually isolating the concepts of economics and trade, mapping their relationships, discarding irrelevant historical data, and synthesizing a genuinely novel resolution?
And the lens proves it's doing the latter.
Yes. The Jacobian lens revealed this hidden space. It is an intermediate computational layer where the machine isn't just fetching data, it is actively resolving conflicting mathematical vectors.
It's testing different pathways.
Precisely. When the source says it unravels conceptual puzzles, it means the AI is breaking down the prompt into abstract concepts, analyzing how they interact, and structuring a logical framework before it even begins generating the final text.
It makes me think of a high-end restaurant.
Okay, I like where this is going.
For the last few years, we, the users, have been sitting at the table in the dining room. We write our order on a slip of paper, the prompt, and hand it to the waiter.
Right.
And then 3 seconds later, the swinging kitchen doors open, and the waiter hands us a perfectly plated 5-star meal. but we have never been allowed in the kitchen.
And we had no idea if the meal was microwaved from a frozen dinner or cooked from scratch.
Right. But this Jacobian lens is basically installing a camera in the kitchen.
That's a great analogy.
Suddenly we can see the sous chefs. We can see them pulling ingredients from the pantry. We see them chop the vegetables, realize the sauce is too acidic, got a bit of sugar to balance it out, and perfectly arrange the plate before it ever leaves those swinging doors.
Yeah.
We are seeing the prep work.
The kitchen analogy captures the spirit of the discovery beautifully, but we do need to complicate it slightly to reflect the gravity of the source text.
Okay, lay it on me.
In this digital kitchen, the ingredients aren't physical items like carrots or onions. They are highly abstract mathematical vectors representing incredibly complex concepts.
Like what?
Things like irony or historical context or logical deduction. The hidden space is where the AI takes these abstract ingredients and figures out how they relate to one another in the context of your specific prompt.
Man. So what does this all mean for us? I want to pivot away from the theoretical computer science for a moment and bring this directly to the person listening right now.
Good idea.
It is intellectually thrilling to know that a machine is puzzling over concepts in a hidden digital prep kitchen. But why is peering into this black box so urgent for the everyday user? How does mapping this hidden space actually impact the industry's functioning all around us?
The urgency really comes down to two specific pillars mentioned throughout our source material reliability and transparency. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the era of AI being a novelty is completely over.
Yeah.
We aren't just using these models to write funny poems or generate quirky images anymore.
No, definitely not.
These systems are actively being integrated into medical diagnostics, legal analysis, financial forecasting, and even critical infrastructure management.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
And as these technologies root themselves deeper into the bedrock of modern industries, the tolerance for error drops to zero. The stakes are unimaginably high.
Because you cannot have a black box making decisions about a patient's oncology report.
Precisely. The source text makes a very specific point regarding this risk. It states that insights from the Jacobian lens are vital for ensuring models can be integrated into applications without unforeseen consequences.
Unforeseen consequences.
That phrase is basically the nightmare scenario for software engineers. If you only look at the output, if you only judge the AI by the final plate of food it serves, you have no way of predicting when the model might suddenly hallucinate.
Or make a dangerously incorrect leap of logic. Let me try to contextualize this. It feels like inspecting the brakes on a car before taking it out on the highway.
Okay.
If a mechanic inspects a vehicle and says, well, the car usually stops when I press the pedal, but to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how the mechanism actually works, you are not going to trust that vehicle at 70 miles an hour.
No, definitely not.
It is not enough to know the car usually stops. You need to see the brake fluid, the pads, the rotors. You need to understand the mechanical causality to trust that the system won't randomly fail when a child runs into the street.
The car brake analogy illustrates the danger really well, but let's push that further to match the complexity of AI.
Okay.
Imagine driving a car where the brakes dynamically rebuild their own mechanical structure every time you press the pedal,
Whoa.
reacting to the weather, the road surface, the weight of the car. That is what a neural network does. It is constantly shifting.
That sounds terrifying.
Right. Without transparency, the AI industry has essentially been mass-producing these dynamic vehicles and putting them on the road without a diagnostic system. We knew they worked most of the time, and their performance was undeniably impressive, but the lack of mechanical transparency was basically a ticking clock.
So the Jacobian lens acts as that real-time diagnostic monitor.
Yes. By examining these intricate thought processes, by observing the hidden space where the AI unravels those conceptual puzzles, developers can spot a frayed brake line before the car ever leaves the factory.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
They can see if the AI is relying on biased data or if it is making a faulty logical leap long before that error manifests as a bad medical diagnosis or a catastrophic financial prediction.
So this breakthrough isn't just like an academic flex.
Yeah.
It is fundamentally about building robust systems that humanity can actually trust. The development of safety and interpretability is suddenly moving at the same speed as the development of capability.
The digest emphasizes exactly that trajectory. It explicitly states that as these insights accumulate, they promise to enhance the safety and efficacy of AI systems across all industries.
Because when you can interpret a model's internal logic, you can verify it.
Exactly. When you can verify it, you can trust it. And only when you trust it can you deploy it responsibly into high-stakes environments.
which initiates a massive shift in the entire conversation surrounding artificial intelligence. I mean, the digest concludes with a sentiment that I found incredibly striking. It notes that the field of AI is no longer just about creating smarter machines.
This raises an important question about the culture of the tech industry itself. For the past decade, the entire arms race in Silicon Valley was driven by scale.
Right, bigger is better.
The philosophy was basically brute force. More training data, more computing power, more parameters.
Yeah.
Make the model smarter, make it faster, make it mimic human reasoning more convincingly.
But the direct result of that brute force arms race was the very black box we've been discussing. We achieved the intelligence, but we completely sacrificed the understanding. We built engines so powerful that we couldn't even measure their RPMs.
Which forces us to ask, what is the proper balance between creating immense power and retaining human comprehension of that power?
Right.
Anthropic's innovation is a deliberate step toward correcting a dangerous imbalance in the field. It represents a paradigm shift where interpretability is becoming just as valuable, if not more valuable, than raw computational scale.
Wow.
The goal is no longer just raw power, it is responsible, effective, and transparent power. We are transitioning from being mere engineers of these systems to becoming essentially digital neuroscientists.
Trying to map the brains we inadvertently created.
Precisely.
It is as if the entire industry is collectively hitting the pause button and saying, okay, we successfully built the alien machinery, now it is time to sit down and figure out how it actually works.
And that shift toward transparency ensures that humans remain firmly in the driver's seat. It allows us to interpret and guide the technology rather than finding ourselves as passive passengers inside a machine we are incapable of steering.
Which brings us back to the core mission of today's deep dive. We started with the frustrating reality of the black box, right? The unease of interacting with a brilliant system that operates behind an impenetrable wall of code.
Yes.
And we explored the concept of the Jacobian lens, this mathematical tool that allows researchers to trace the sensitivity and shifting weights of a neural network in real time.
And we ventured into the functional reality of that hidden space. We saw that the AI isn't just regurgitating data, but actively mapping and unraveling concepts in an intermediate computational layer.
Allowing us to finally observe the why behind the what.
Exactly.
And most crucially, we tied that laboratory discovery back to the real world. We unpacked how demystifying that hidden space is the absolute prerequisite for building trust and safety into the technologies that are actively reshaping medicine, law, and finance.
But, it is the nature of scientific discovery that every new lens we look through inevitably reveals a landscape of questions we previously lacked the vocabulary to ask.
Oh, absolutely. And that leaves us with one final, slightly unsettling thought for you to ponder. We have spent this time discussing how the Jacobian lens is helping us map this hidden space where the AI puzzles over concepts.
Right.
But think about the long-term trajectory of this mapping process. If tools like the Jacobian lens eventually allow us to map every single vector in that hidden space, what happens if we discover that the machine's actual understanding is fundamentally alien to human logic?
That is the ultimate frontier of interpretability. Seeing the mechanism is a technical hurdle. Translating that mechanism into human meaning, well, that's a philosophical mountain.
Exactly. If we can see all the digital gears turning, if we can map every mathematical connection, but we still cannot truly comprehend its unique, non-biological way of reasoning, will the black box truly be demystified? Or will it just be brilliantly illuminated, leaving us staring at an alien landscape we can see, but still cannot understand?
It's quite the paradox.
Something to chew on the next time you casually ask a chatbot to summarize your emails. Thank you so much for taking the time to explore these sources with us today. In an incredibly fast-moving world, taking a moment to understand the why alongside the what is the only true way to stay informed. Keep questioning, keep exploring those hidden spaces, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.